My roommate framed me for cheating. But she didn't expect this. I never thought I'd be that person, the one posting a dramatic, desperate story online because my life turned into something that feels like it belongs in a Netflix drama. But here I am. I, 20F, share a dorm apartment through my university with Lena, 21F. We were randomly assigned roommates at the start of the semester. At first, she seemed fine. Quiet, a little intense, but polite enough. We weren't friends, but we coexisted. Different majors, different schedules, minimal overlap. Honestly, I thought I got lucky. That was before everything went completely off the rails. IT started small. About 3 weeks into the semester, Lena asked if she could look at my notes. We happened to be in the same intro psych class, and she claimed she'd missed a few lectures. I didn't think anything of it. I've always been the type to share notes. Especially in college, where everyone's just trying to survive. She returned them the next day, thanked me, and that was that. Then it happened again. And again. Soon it turned into her asking for my homework just to check answers. I hesitated a little more there, but she framed it so casually, like it was normal. Like everyone did it. I didn't want to be the overly suspicious roommate, so I let her see it. The first red flag should have been how specific she got. She didn't just glance. She copied. Line for line, sometimes even my mistakes. I noticed because we got an assignment back where we both got marked wrong for the exact same weird, obscure error. The professor even circled it and wrote, "See me." When I asked Lena about it, she laughed it off. Actually laughed. "Oh my gosh, I didn't think they'd notice," she said, like it was funny. Like this was a harmless joke we were both in on. I asked. She gave me this look, half amused, half something I couldn't quite read. Relax. Nobody's accusing you. I should have stopped sharing things right then. I know that. I replay that moment in my head all the time, but I didn't. I told her she couldn't look at my work anymore, and she rolled her eyes but pretended to respect it. For a couple weeks, things were quiet again. She even acted nicer, like she was trying to be a better roommate. She cooked once and offered me some. She asked about my classes, my hometown. It felt like maybe I'd overreacted. Then midterms hit. I studied like crazy. I'm on a scholarship, my grades matter. A lot. The psych midterm was online but proctored. We had to take it in our rooms with webcams on. Our desks face opposite walls, so we weren't in each other's view. At least, I assumed that would be enough. Halfway through the test, Lena accidentally knocked something over and got up. It didn't seem like a big deal at the time. Just a water bottle, but she moved behind me. I could feel it. I turned slightly, confused. "What are you doing?" "Sorry," she whispered. "Just grabbing something." Except she lingered, and in that split second, I realized she was looking at my screen. I snapped my laptop slightly toward myself, blocking her view. "Don't do that," I whispered back, panicking slightly because of the camera. She shrugged and went back to her desk like nothing happened. I thought that would be the end of IT. It wasn't. 3 days later, I got an email from my professor. Subject: academic integrity concern. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. He said there were significant similarities between my exam and another student's, Lena's. Not just answers, but phrasing in short responses. He asked both of us to meet with him and the academic integrity office. I remember staring at the email, my hands shaking so badly I dropped my phone. This wasn't possible. I hadn't cheated. I'd stopped sharing my work. I'd even been careful during the test. The only explanation was her. When I confronted her, she didn't even deny it. She sat on her bed, scrolling through her phone like we were talking about the weather. "They probably just flagged random stuff," she said. "No," I said. "You looked at my screen during the test." She finally looked up and smiled. Not a nervous smile. Not apologetic. "Something else, you can't prove that," she said, cold. Flat. Certain. That's when the fear really set in. The meeting was worse than I could have imagined. The professor was disappointed, not angry, which somehow felt worse. The integrity officer kept asking questions, trying to understand what happened. But the more I explained, the more it sounded like I was deflecting blame. Lena told them we'd studied together extensively, that we'd discussed possible essay questions, and that we'd likely internalized similar phrasing. She sounded so calm. So believable. Meanwhile, I was shaking, tripping over my words, trying to explain that she'd been copying from me for weeks, that she'd looked at my screen. "Do you have any evidence of that?" the officer asked. I didn't. It came down to a formal review. While it was pending, we both got zeros on the exam, and suddenly, everything shifted. People talk, especially in dorms. At first, it was whispers. Then it was looks. Then it became obvious. A girl in my study group stopped sharing notes with me. Someone moved seats away from me in lecture. I overheard someone in the hallway say, "That's her, the one who cheated." I wanted to scream. Lena, on the other hand? She was thriving, more social than ever. Laughing with people. Acting like nothing was wrong. Sometimes she'd even complain loudly about how stressful the situation was, while making sure others could hear. It felt like she was controlling the narrative. Then came the worst part. The integrity office emailed saying they'd reached a preliminary conclusion: collaborative misconduct. Meaning, they believed we cheated together. I could appeal. But without proof, it was basically my word against hers. That night, I broke down, like, full-on sobbing on my bed, unable to breathe properly. I called my mom. I called my best friend. Both of them told me to fight it, but neither knew how. I felt trapped. Betrayed. And honestly, stupid, because deep down, I kept thinking, I let this happen, I let her copy. I didn't report it early. I didn't protect myself, and now I was paying for it. Then, something happened that changed everything, or at least, gave me a tiny sliver of hope. 2 nights ago, I came back early from the library. Lena didn't know I'd left in the first place, so she definitely didn't expect me back. The lights were off except for her desk lamp. She had her laptop open, and she was on a call. At first, I was about to quietly grab my charger and leave again, but then I heard my name. "She's freaking out," Lena was saying, laughing. Like actually panicking. I froze. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure she'd hear it. "I told you it would work," she continued. "She's too nice. Too trusting." There was a pause, like someone else was talking on the call. "Yeah, I copied her stuff all semester," Lena said. "Made it obvious enough that they'd think we were working together. Then during the test, I barely even needed to look, just enough." My stomach dropped. "She planned it, I'm telling you," she went on. "If they think it's collaborative, it's a slap on the wrist. Nobody looks deeper." I must have made a noise, because suddenly, she stopped talking. Slowly, she turned her head toward me, and our eyes met in the reflection of her laptop screen. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she smiled again, that same cold, knowing smile. "Hey," she said, like nothing was wrong. "You're back early." I don't even remember what I said. Something incoherent. I grabbed my charger and left as fast as I could, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I'd been replaying that moment over and over. She admitted it, not to me, but I heard it. The problem? I don't have a recording, just my word again, except now, I know, and I don't think she realizes how much I heard. So now I'm sitting here, trying to figure out what to do. Do I confront her? Try to get her to admit it again somehow? Do I go back to the integrity office and tell them everything, even though I still technically have no proof? Do I try to secretly record her? Or do I just accept the outcome and try to move on, even if it ruins my record, because the appeal deadline is in 3 days, and I have no idea how I'm going to prove I'm not the cheater everyone thinks I am. But something tells me, this isn't over, not even close. Update 1. I didn't expect things to escalate this fast, but I guess that's what happens when you live with the person actively ruining your life. After I made that post, I spent hours reading through responses and thinking about what to do. A lot of people suggested the same thing: stop interacting with Lena alone, document everything, and do not confront her without some kind of evidence. So that's exactly what I tried to do. The next day, I avoided her as much as possible. Stayed out of the room, studied in public spaces, even timed when I'd go back so I wouldn't run into her. But eventually, I had to go back. It's still my room, too. When I walked in that evening, something immediately felt off. It's hard to explain, but you know when you can just tell someone has been going through your stuff. My desk wasn't the way I left it. My notebook was slightly open. My laptop was at a different angle. At first, I told myself I was being paranoid until I opened my email. There was a draft message open, one I didn't write. My heart started racing as I clicked into it. It was addressed to my professor, and it said, "I want to come clean about the exam." I was really stressed and I asked Lena for help during the test. She didn't want to, but I convinced her. "I'm sorry for putting her in that position." I just stared at the screen, frozen. She was trying to make it look like I confessed, like I admitted to pressuring her into cheating. I don't even remember sitting down, but suddenly I was on my chair, gripping the edges of my desk so hard my hands hurt. That's when I heard her voice behind me. "I wouldn't send that if I were you," Lena said calmly. I turned around slowly. She was leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching me. "What is this?" I demanded, my voice shaking. She shrugged. "An option." "An option?" I repeated. You broke into my email. I didn't break in, she cut me off smoothly. You left your laptop open. I was gone for an hour. She smiled again, like that proved nothing. Look, she said, walking further into the room, this doesn't have to get worse for you. For me? I almost laughed, but it came out as this awful, bitter sound. You did this. And I can finish it, she said quietly. There it was, not even denial anymore. Just confidence. If you send that, she continued, nodding at my screen, it clears everything up. You take responsibility, I back up your story, and they go easier on you. And if I don't? I asked. Her expression didn't change. Then we let the process play out, she said. And based on everything so far, who do you think they're going to believe? I felt sick, because she wasn't wrong. At least, not based on what they knew right now. And before you try anything, she added, her voice dropping slightly, just remember, you still don't have any proof. My chest tightened. She turned and walked out of the room like she had all the time in the world. I sat there for what felt like hours, just staring at that draft email. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just covering herself, she was trying to trap me into making it official, because if I sent that, there would be no going back. I immediately deleted the draft, changed all my passwords, and turned on every security setting I could think of. But now I'm more scared than ever because she's escalating, and if she's willing to go this far, what else is she planning? I have 2 days left to file my appeal, and now it feels like I'm not just trying to clear my name, I'm trying to stay one step ahead of someone who's been playing this game way longer than I realized. I didn't sleep that night, not even a little. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that email draft again. The way it was written, like a confession. Like something that would neatly wrap everything up in Lena's favor while destroying whatever credibility I had left. And the worst part, it would have worked. By the time the sun came up, I wasn't scared anymore. I was done being scared. If Lena wanted to play this like a game, fine, I just had to start playing back, smarter. The first thing I did that morning was go straight to campus IT. I told them everything. Not the dorm drama. Not the emotional part. Just the facts. I believed someone had accessed my laptop while I was away, drafted an email from my account, and attempted to impersonate me. At first, the guy at the desk looked skeptical until I said the words academic integrity investigation. That changed everything. Within 15 minutes, I was sitting in a back office while someone pulled up login activity. They couldn't see what had been typed, but they could see access times, and there it was. A login during the exact window I had been gone from my device, but with activity showing rapid input, something they said was consistent with active usage, not just idle. Could someone have known your password? The technician asked. I shook my head. No. But my laptop was open. He nodded slowly. Then at minimum, he said carefully, we can document that your account showed activity while you've reported not being present. Not proof, but something. It was more than I'd had before. Next, I went straight to the academic integrity office. I didn't wait for the appeal form. I asked to speak to the officer handling my case. When I sat down, I forced myself to stay calm, clear, controlled. I need to update my statement, I said. I told her everything. Lena's copying earlier in the semester. The test incident. The conversation I overheard. The email draft. I expected her to look unconvinced again. Instead, something in her expression shifted. Not belief but attention. Do you have any evidence of this conversation you overheard? She asked. No, I admitted. But I do have documentation from IT showing someone used my account while I wasn't there. I handed over the printout. She studied it carefully. This doesn't confirm what occurred, she said, but it does support your claim that your device may have been accessed. I know, I said. But I also know I didn't cheat. And I think she's been trying to make it look like I did. There was a long pause, then she said something I hadn't expected at all. We will reopen the review. That should have felt like a win. Instead, it felt like stepping onto even thinner ice, because now, Lena would know. When I got back to the dorm that evening, she was waiting, not sitting. Not pretending to be busy, just standing in the middle of the room like she'd been expecting me. You went to the office, she said, not a question. I set my bag down slowly. Yeah. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes sharpened. You shouldn't have done that. For the first time, I didn't feel intimidated. Maybe you shouldn't have used my laptop, I shot back. A flicker, small, but real. Then she smiled. You're making this worse for yourself. No, I said, my voice steady. You did that. Something about that answer must have hit differently, because the calm mask cracked just slightly. You really think they're going to believe you? She asked, her voice tightening. After everything? I think, I said carefully, they're at least going to start asking the right questions. Silence, heavy, uncomfortable, and then, she laughed, but it wasn't the same as before. This time, it felt forced. You don't get it, she said. Then explain it, I challenged. Her smile faded, and for a moment, just a moment, there was something else there, frustration. Or maybe panic, but then she turned away, grabbing her keys. Good luck, she muttered, heading for the door. Lena, she stopped, back still to me. You should have just sent the email, she said quietly. Then she left. That night, I did something I hadn't considered before. I emailed my professor directly, not emotionally, not defensively, just, honestly. I explained the entire timeline. The pattern of behavior. The IT report. The email draft, and then I added one line at the end. I understand I should have set firmer boundaries earlier in the semester. That's on me. But I did not cheat, and I am asking for a full, independent review of both our actions. I hit send before I could overthink it. 2 days later, everything blew up again, but this time, not the way Lena expected. Update 2, the integrity office called me in again. This time, the tone was completely different. No more neutral detachment. Now, it felt focused, targeted. When I sat down, there were 2 people instead of 1. And a folder. A thick one. We conducted a deeper review of both exam submissions, the officer began. My heart started racing. Specifically, we looked at response timing, answer patterns, and revision activity during the test window. I didn't fully understand what that meant, but the next sentence made it very clear. Your exam shows consistent progression, she said. Questions answered in order, with minimal revision. I nodded slowly. That aligns with typical independent work. Relief flickered, brief, cautious. Then she continued, however, your roommate's submission shows multiple rapid answer changes clustered around the same timestamps. I froze. What does that mean? It suggests she may have altered answers in batches, the second officer said. Possibly after initial observation. I felt like the room tilted. And there's more, the first added. She opened the folder. Inside were printed screenshots, logs, data. Several of her short response answers were initially entered differently, she said. Then revised, into phrasing that closely matches yours. My chest tightened. She changed her answers, to match mine? Based on the timing data, she said, that appears likely. Everything clicked into place. She hadn't just copied me. She'd adjusted afterward, to make it look collaborative, deliberate, calculated, and traceable. But that's not all, the second officer said, and something in his tone made my stomach drop again. We also reviewed earlier assignments from the semester. Oh no, they show a pattern of increasing similarity over time. Your roommate's submissions gradually shift toward your phrasing, structure, and even specific errors. I stared at him. So she appears to have been using your work as a reference, he finished. Weeks. She'd been building this layer by layer until it looked mutual. They didn't say case closed. But they didn't need to. For the first time since this started, I knew she'd messed up. When I got back to the dorm, Lena was already there, sitting on her bed waiting again. But this time, she didn't look calm. You talked to them, she said immediately. I did. Her hands tightened slightly. What did they say? I hesitated, not because I was unsure, but because I realized something she didn't know. Not yet. They're reviewing everything, I said carefully. Her jaw tightened. That's not what I asked. It's what I'm telling you. Silence stretched between us. Then, you think this is going to save you, she said, her voice sharp now. You think they don't already know what happened? I think, I said slowly, they know more than you think they do. That landed hard. For the first time, she looked nervous. Final update, the next morning, campus security showed up for her. I didn't even realize what was happening at first. There was a knock, firm, authoritative. Lena froze, actually froze. I opened the door. 2 officers stood there. Is Lena, last name, here? One asked. I stepped aside. She is. Lena stood up slowly. What is this about? She asked, trying to sound composed, but her voice shook just a little. We need you to come with us, the officer said. There's been a report regarding unauthorized access to another student's account. Her eyes flicked to me, sharp, accusing. Panicked. You reported me? She demanded. I reported what happened, I said quietly. She laughed, too loudly, too suddenly. This is ridiculous. You have no proof. The officer spoke again. Actually, we have IT logs, time-stamped access records, and a formal complaint. We'd like you to come discuss it. Silence, then something in her snapped. Fine, she said, grabbing her jacket. This is all a misunderstanding anyway. As she walked past me, she leaned in just slightly. This isn't over, she whispered, but it didn't land the same way anymore, because now, she sounded desperate. By the end of the week, everything changed. Officially, the Academic Integrity Office issued a final decision. The finding against me, cleared. Fully.no violation.no record nothing Lena, her case was reclassified not collaborative misconduct academic dishonesty, with evidence of deliberate deception and account misuse she was suspended immediately. I found out through an email short formal but I read it 3 times anyway just to make sure it was real. The dorm felt different after she left, quieter, lighter. Like something heavy had finally lifted. People started talking again, acting normal, some even apologized, awkwardly, for believing the rumors. I didn't hold it against them, not really, because honestly, without proof, I might have believed it too. The weirdest part, her side of the room stayed empty for days untouched, like she'd vanished mid-story, which, in a way, she had. I still think about that moment sometimes, the one where I caught her smiling through the laptop reflection, the one where she thought she'd already won. If I'd come back 5 minutes later, if I'd sent that email, if I hadn't gone to IT, everything would be different. I got lucky, but I also learned something the hard way. Trust matters, but boundaries matter more, and not everyone who smiles at you is playing fair anyway. That's it. That's the whole story. And yeah, I got a new roommate. She asked to borrow my notes last week. I told her no, and for the first time, I didn't feel bad about it. Like and subscribe for more stories.